It is now recorded.
Well, good morning. I'm Peter Macias. I am a retired communications professional. I've got about 35 years of communication experience under my belt, with a majority of that being in crisis communication. If you'll go to the next slide. I have a mentor who I've worked with for almost 25 years, and he had an amazing quote about crisis communication. He says, crisis communication is getting the right information to the right people at the right time at 100 times the stress. And it's just amazing how fast and how hard you got to move, and how fast the everyday stuff just falls to the side. Next slide, please. What is a crisis? A crisis is an event that has huge impact on your day-to-day operations for your school, for your organization. It will completely stop everything, all your day-to-day work, and it will consume you and your team, and especially consume the leadership team you have at your school. It impacts, it impacts your reputation, your credibility. It has adverse consequences. It'll impact your brand, and it'll impact you as a professional in an adverse fashion if not handled correctly. Next one. Okay, the next couple of slides are rhetorical. This is SpaceX. This is their Falcon Heavy lifting off from South Texas. 3 minutes into the flight, it explodes all over South Texas and all over the Gulf of Mexico. Is this a crisis? We'll talk about that in a second. Here's the next one. This is New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. That's what it looked like. Lower Ninth Ward looked just terrible. For FEMA, is this their everyday work, or is this a crisis? We'll talk about that one. For some people, it is a crisis. For the citizens there, it was a crisis. But for FEMA, who responds to those things, I would say it's everyday work, but it was so big, it consumed them, and it eventually turned into a crisis for them. So here's something a little odd. Take a look at this poster. It's a pool safety poster. Take a close look at it. This became a huge crisis for the American Red Cross. The American Red Cross is known for all their safety, pool safety work, and this became national news. Let me give you a hint. Take a look at everybody in that poster who's doing something wrong. Who are they? They're the African American cartoon characters in there. The American Red Cross had been using this water safety poster for decades, and nobody ever noticed it till all of a sudden one day somebody noticed it and got in touch with CBS National News. And for 3 weeks solid, everything at Red Cross stopped. We pulled every last poster out of every pool across the country, had to recreate this, had to create talking points to support what we were doing. We ended up having to apologize for what we were doing. This became huge, and it overwhelmed us. It overwhelmed the Red Cross while I was there. It was amazing. Now, within the 3 weeks, we have a new poster. We have the people who designed the poster were no longer around. It had been done 20 years ago, so it was crazy. But that's how you would think something insignificant turns into a national crisis. You end up having the president and CEO of the Red Cross on national TV on CBS Morning News talking to Gayle King saying, "We're sorry. This is not us. How can nobody recognize that? It was overlooked." But that was huge. The Falcon 9 heavy lift, I would venture to say that's everyday business. they expect that thing to explode as it comes off until they've got it lined up. You know, I would say with well, the guy who has billions and billions of dollars when that rocket explodes over South Texas, that's just everyday business. For FEMA, it became a crisis for FEMA. And what helped them out is they were able to reach around and bring in other partners to help them get through the crisis and serve the people, not only of New Orleans, but all along the Gulf Coast, all the way over into South Texas. That's how big that crisis became. Okay. Any questions so far? All right, let's keep moving. Possible crises, natural disasters. We're talking about hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, ice storms. What can impact your campus? You know, dust storms, man-made disasters, plane crash, car crash, bus crash. The pandemic was a huge crisis. Let's say you have a suspicious death on campus, you know, of a student or a faculty member. A financial scandal can be a huge crisis. Somebody who's embezzling money. A major ethical scandal. Let's see, on campuses, could it be a professor having an affair with a student? Could it be somebody teaching something outside the realm of the approved curriculum? You know, all it takes is somebody to turn around and walk over to the press and say, "Hey, look, this isn't what I thought it was," and all of a sudden questions are being answered. Drug trafficking, human trafficking. How many times have you had campus police bust into a student dormitory, and all of a sudden you find a big stash of drugs there? Human trafficking is a big thing on campus these days. All that's crisis. It stops your daily work from promoting the school and helping with development and recruitment. It's just huge. And then a campus facility failure. Wow, there's a campus in Central Texas. It's called Griffith Hall. It was a brand new facility. It was a brand new living facility, dormitory, and all of a sudden we had a freeze in Central Texas, and the the fire suppression system froze, and a 3-story dormitory flooded. Over 230 students were flooded out of their dormitory, out into the cold. The school had to go and had to find hotels for them to stay in. And it was all on the NCAA women's basketball tournament weekend in Waco. That was a huge crisis. And that crisis didn't end quickly. That crisis lasted for probably a good couple of months, and then remnants for another 3 or 4 months after that. So all those are possible crises that can happen. Okay, now what's the difference between a crisis and issues management? Issues management are things that happen every day that all of a sudden become a priority, like the community objects to the development of new capital. You know, like I said, questions from lawmakers during a bond election, the closing of a campus, the sunsetting of a particular curriculum at a school, student protests, the organization's decision to have people come back to the office after COVID-19, you know, poor quarterly financial results, super low recruitment. All those are just issues management. They become priorities, but those are not crises. Yeah, communication in a crisis is unlike day-to-day comms work. This stuff tests you physically, mentally, emotionally. So it's a tough one. Let's go to the next one. Hello, Joseph.
Hello.
According to the CDC Crisis and Emergency Risk Communications effort, these are their guiding principles to crisis communication. Be first. And if that means outing yourself to the public and letting the public know that there's a crisis going on at your organization, say if it's an active shooter, you've got to get in touch with the public to let them know what's going on. Be the first to do it. Be right. Have accurate and vital information. Be credible. Tell the truth. Whatever you do, do not hide information to avoid embarrassment or panic. Be empathetic. Let people know that you are feeling or trying to feel what they're feeling. and you're with them. Be action-oriented. Give people something to do during the crisis. For instance, during the pandemic, one of the things we told people to do was wash their hands, right? You do the ABCs while you wash your hands. Or in Spanish, when I was with the Red Cross, the pandemic started as I was leaving there. They would wash their hands and do the little chick song, pew pew pew. You know, they wash their hands and stuff. So you give some people something to do, and be respectful. Treat the audience how you want to be treated. They're very, very smart people on the other end who are listening to you, and they will get back in touch with you. Next slide, please. Why is all this important? Wow, the stakes are often higher. Safety, health, finance, job, stress. Sometimes your reputation, sometimes lives may be involved. It requires agility and response. You got to be ready to move or pick up and turn 180 degrees and move the other direction based on how the situation is evolving. The consequences of a mistake when you send out a release and a couple of nuggets of information aren't quite accurate, are, you can fix that. The consequences of mistakes during a crisis are huge. Bad address, a bad telephone number, all that is exponentially grows bigger because it's a crisis. And then you have to address the uncertainty. For instance, this is a dynamic event and things are changing rapidly. We will endeavor to get back in touch with you as quickly as we can with the most accurate information we have at the time. And then make sure you do it. Next slide, please. Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The three things we're going to work on now are evaluation, planning, and responding. Wrong way. Almost, the other one more. Right there's fine, Maria. Look, if I can impart absolutely anything on you during this, it's plan, 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 and then practice, practice, practice. Part of your planning is to sit down with a team and take a look and identify every last possible crisis you can think of that can impact you and your campus. Look, you can't plan for everything, but you can identify tons of things. You can identify, hazardous materials on your campus. You can identify a bus crash with students on it. You can identify, something, a drug bust at the dorms. You can identify, unethical behavior. All that stuff you can identify. And then what you want to do is be able to develop a matrix of how you're going to message each one of those. Just create yourself a template for it. To do this, you need to put together a team, and your team just can't involve the communications folks. And when I say communications folks, I'm including marketing and I'm including development folks. When a crisis strikes, no more labels. We're all communicators. We're all working to resolve the crisis. We're all working to protect the schools. You are the keeper of the flame for the schools. So you got to put them long before anything happens, as you're doing your audit and going through and checking to see, making a list of everything that could happen that you're going to plan for. Put your team together. Make sure it includes somebody from the president's office, chancellor's office. Make sure it includes somebody from legal. Make sure it includes a staffer. Make sure it includes an instructor. So you all get together. Everybody's looking at it from different angles, plus one or two members of your communication team, and sit down and take a day to identify every last possible crisis so you can start developing and planning ahead of time. So those are some of the things, a bus crash, hazardous material storage. I know a college who has a facility that's maybe less than 200 yards away from a railroad line. And up and down that railroad line, railroad cars go by there with hazardous materials. I would hope that school has communication in place, ready to go, that syncs up with their response plan in case that there's a trail derailment. train derailment. I'll get right here in a second. So all that you need to think about when it comes into play. You know, sudden questionable death, we talked about that. Plane crash. Tricia, I'm going to talk to you real quick. Here's where I'm going to talk to you about the blimp. I was doing some media training, and I was working with a teammate of mine, and the crisis we came up with was that a blimp ripped away from its mooring at the flight line that's close to the campus, and as it ripped away from the mooring in high winds, it floated like less than 100 yards over on campus and hit buildings. It exploded. There were students running. There were instructors running. People were on fire. So it became a really, really interesting scenario to do a media training on. But that's where the plane crash and the blimp issue comes in. We did that as a scenario. Okay, let's keep going here. Planning for a crisis. After you've performed your assessment, after you sat down with your team and you've written it all down, it's time to create your plan and draft template communication collateral. As you start to do this, please remember or please ask your leadership team up in the C-suite, do we have an overall response plan for the school? Because as you start to create your crisis communication plan, it needs to fit and coincide and work together with your response plan from the school. So take that into consideration. You want to have your crisis communication plan well ahead of any crisis. You know, step process, you want to give people something to do. Here's a big one. Wow. Target audiences. It's not only external target audiences, and there's many of those, it's internal folks. Often we overlook how the crisis will impact our staff, our students, our faculty. You know, all that comes into play. You know, and some of those folks may have a say or all of a sudden be given a task within your crisis communication plan. Think about those. Think about in your external audiences, make sure you think of every last person you can think, from parents to students to the general public, to the people who live right outside the boundary of your campus, to lawmakers or your government relations folks who need to be at the table talking with you about how we want to respond with those folks. Man, there's so many of them. Sit down and take time out to think about all of them. Tactics and tools, pre and post crisis. Hold on a second here. I made a list as I was thinking about this morning. Look, I was talking about a communication messaging matrix. Make one of those. This is the crisis. This is who's responsible for creating the content on this, when it goes, when it doesn't go, and you have the template there. That way it's already in place. It's easier to edit a template in the middle of a crisis than it is to create content. Okay? So as the crisis changes, because we know it's a dynamic event and things change and move, you can change and adjust your template to fix that. So guys, I'm sure everybody has, this will tell you how old I am. I used to have a media roster in a 3-ring binder, and I would update my media roster every 3 months. I'm sure nowadays we have electronic stuff that's out there and organizations that take care of that. Make sure you have an up-to-date media roster. Develop your holding statements. Develop your news releases. You're going to need photos. You're going to need video. Make sure you're in close contact with your videographers and photographers. And you need to be able to track everything. Track every last media call or request that comes in. Track your media hits and press conferences, because guess what? Somebody's going to ask you about them. And that somebody's going to come from your leadership team that's going to ask you, how many people called, where we're going, and all of a sudden people start watching the television or listening to the radio or looking at the internet for the media hits that are taking place. Be forward thinking. Think long term. Think about what you're doing now, but look toward the end of the crisis so it all flows and fits together. Next. Any questions so far? No, I'm rambling here.
Before you move on, some of this planning also if I recall when we did some of this work, is identifying your spokespeople.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Oh yeah, that's an important one. Uh, I'm going to say this, and I'm looking over my shoulder. Not everybody on your leadership team should be a spokesperson, because not everybody is camera ready or fluent or relaxed and able to stand in front of a camera and talk. You know, a lot of them are a little stiff, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. That's it. What should I do differently? Well, look, the mental and the physical preparation reduces anxiety. If you are in an area such as in South Texas where Joseph is, or in Victoria, you're susceptible to hurricanes coming in off the Gulf Coast and hitting you. You know, you already have your storm tips ready to go for your campus, for your students. You're passing that information out. That reduces the level of anxiety about stuff that's about to happen. And that stuff you can forecast. You can see that crisis coming to you, so you have control of that. Taking action, it reduces anxiety. Like I said a while ago, during the pandemic, we had people washing their hands, social distancing, masks. I remember being in Washington, D.C. a week after they shut the entire government down. I went to the grocery store, and they were only letting one person in at a time, and not everybody had masks on, so I had to use a handkerchief with rubber bands to create myself a mask to go in and work with. Give your audience something to do that helps them get through the anxiety of the crisis. Show confidence and be accurate with your information. Let them know there's a process in place. Make sure that you are communicating exactly what your organization is doing. Do not let your communication and the actions that are taking place by your organization be different. They have to be the same. Excuse me. And maintain trust, and that's how you maintain trust, making sure competence and trust are all in one thing, so people trust what you're saying and what you're doing, that your organization is doing the right thing. Take a look at your team and be a leader for your team. Your team's going to be anxious. They're the people who are backing you up. They're the people who are going to be on site. They're the people who are creating content and doing videos and doing photos. Be a leader for your team. The method that I use is I use SWARM leadership, SWARM, SWARM leadership. It's a concept that came out of the Boston Marathon bombing years back. Excuse me. Next slide. I'll tell you exactly what it is here. Show you exactly what it is. There are 5 precepts to SWARM leadership. The very first one is unity of mission, generosity of spirit. Third one is stay in your own lane. It's important that you stay in your own lane, but you have a responsibility for helping other people be successful in their lane. No ego, no blame. Hey, we all take credit. We all win, or we all lose. You don't toss a teammate in front of the bus in front of in a meeting. You take care of all that stuff later, after the crisis is passed. You can take care of all that later. And then most important, you've got to work from a foundation of trust. You have to trust that the people that are working for you and you're leading are going to take great care of you and do accurate, astonishing work. And then they need to trust you that you're going to guide them and take care of them where they need to go to be successful. So that's just the way I do my leadership. I'm sure there are many of you who, anybody do leadership in a different fashion, have different ways they do it? No? Nobody? Okay. Let's keep going. Critical elements of a crisis communication plan. You know, we talked about audiences a little while ago. There's a list of some of the audiences right there. You know, what do you want to tell them? Who, what, why, when, where, and how? I'm not telling you anything different about the messaging on that. Here we go. Who are the best spokespeople to carry your message? It's not always the leadership. It's not always the leadership, but it is the subject matter expert. It's not always the lead communicator. If I am watching TV or reading something online, I want to know that the person who is being interviewed or who is talking to me knows what they're talking about. It provides me accurate, expert information. Okay? Now, in some cases, I want the person who is leading the effort, could be somebody from the C-suite, who's leading the effort and says, hey, I'm taking care of the students, I'm taking care of the instructors, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. Identify them, put them through media training. Make sure they are comfortable. Make sure that when you hand them talking points, that they're comfortable in reading those talking points and putting them into their own words. It's important. You can't have a spokesperson go and read exactly from there. Okay? Let's see. How do we get the information to them? This is the methodology for all communication. You got to be proactive. You respond to reactive inquiries, and you got to be interactive. So everything on the internet. You're going to be proactive. It's going to be news releases. It's going to be statements. It's going to be interviews. It's going to be press conferences. Reactive. You're responding to questions from the press. You're responding to questions from lawmakers. You're responding to questions from parents. So you get somebody over in student affairs who's getting questions from a couple of parents, and it's the same questions. The folks in student affairs are going to be going like this. I'm not a communicator. And who's the first person they're going to turn to? They're going to turn to you. They're going to turn right to you and ask you a question, ask you to help them craft messaging that they can share with those parents because it's important. Okay, interactive. And I sure hope you have an amazing social media professional on your staff who can manage every last social media channel that's out there, because we're all over the place when it comes to social media channels, and everybody's monitoring everything from Facebook, who, from what I understand now, my son tells me that's for old people, to Twitter. My son also tells me that's for old people, to TikTok, and he tells me that's almost for old people, to all the other brand new channels that are out there that I haven't even conceived about looking at. So make sure you have somebody who knows that. Make sure they are crafting short, pithy, accurate messages to get out to the public during this crisis that lets people know what you're doing. Okay, it's rally time. It's rally time. It's time to get the organization together. It's time to get them to respond. Those are all the people who will be helping you respond. And why did I put that on there? Because it's important. What's going to happen is, as you create content, how many people are going to want to review the content you've created? Lots and lots and lots. That's why I go back to your team. Who are the people you're working with? Make sure you have a review team of two, three, or four. Four at the absolute most. A member who's part of the leadership team, somebody from government relations, somebody from legal. Have them review the stuff. You have to balance the idea of getting stuff out fast with being able to be agile. Be semper gumby, always flexible, and being able to turn on a dime because the situation's evolving really fast. When it comes down to it, your messaging, like I said a little while ago, has to line up with exactly with what your organization is doing. And why, like I have there underlined, words are hollow unless backed up by action. I'll go back to the dormitory accident that happened at the TSTC campus in Waco. So TSTC had to find hotel rooms for more than 200 students. Overnight, a bus system was created. Overnight, we had to find places for them to eat. We had to figure out how to transport their toolkits. We had to figure out how to transport their books and their supplies. We had to make sure they were all taken care of. And that's part of the messaging that went out. And it was all during that weekend when There was not a hotel room in sight because there were so many people in that weekend for the women's NCAA playoffs. So it was a challenge, but we were able to line up our messaging saying this is what we're doing, and look, this is how we did it. We were able to show it not only in words, we had visuals to back it up as well. Here's something super important. As a communicator, you have to have a seat at the leadership table. You have to be sitting there so you can say this. You have to be a consultant to your leadership and say, this is what the public's going to think if we message it this way. I suggest you do it this way, and this is how we should align what we're doing to respond to this crisis with our messaging that says, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to resolve the situation. And you have to do this before your communication collateral is being disseminated. And when I say communication collateral, that's your news release, your statements, the photos, the video, and all that stuff. Let's go to the next one. Any questions so far? I'm sitting here talking, already swallowed my cough drop. Okay. What to communicate? I think you guys already know this. Facts during a crisis, facts and information. And you balance it with the need to get it out quickly. Empathy. You need to let the public know this is impacted more than from a business standpoint. This is personal. Not only personal to people that are impacted, personal to us because it impacts us as well, impacts our community as well. Like I said, what are you doing and what are you planning to do? This is what happened. This is how we're responding. This is how we resolve never to let this happen again. And this is what we're doing to resolve the situation. And don't speculate or overpromise. Man, how many times have you been interviewed by a reporter and they say, they hit you with a hypothetical question. Well, what if that what if that pool would have had a lifeguard, that kid wouldn't have drowned, right? Well, I don't know. I can't answer that question because it's a hypothetical. I don't know what would have happened if that lifeguard, were there. So don't get caught in a hypothetical situation. Don't over speculate about what happened, and don't overpromise on how the situation is going to be resolved. Go ahead. Here's a sample template that I wrote that might help you. We're aware of the situation at this location. We're working to do this. The safety and well-being of our employees, customers, neighbors, students are our first priority. This is a tragic issue, but we're working to resolve it. We're working with the state of Texas. We're working with the state of, with the city of Austin. We're working with the city of Victoria. We're working with Williamson County. Whatever it is, and then how we'll be providing updates throughout the day. Take a check at our website. Write your draft template statements for every last crisis that you can think of, and just put it there. Like I said before, it's easier to edit a statement that's already been drafted, a template, than it is to have to create content on the run. Okay, next. Okay, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody knows about talking points. No more than 2 or 3 main talking points. If you're a member of your target audience, I've heard some folks go on and on and on, have 6, 7, 8 talking points. I can only remember 2 or 3. And I usually, when I have my talking points, I've got them right here in my hand so I don't mess them up. 2 or 3 talking points. It's easier to remember. It's easier for your audience. Now your talking points can have sub-bullets. And those sub-bullets can support the accuracy of that talking point, but only 3 things. We're doing this is how we're doing it, and this is how we're resolving, So main messages should be simple and declarative statements. Read them out loud. Read them out loud so you can hear them, There is a national news anchor who will pick up the Wall Street Journal, which is not written to be read out loud. And he will stand in front of a mirror and read the Wall Street Journal and enunciate every word. So when he goes on camera to read the evening news, It flows better. Practice it. Practice it. If you need to pause or take a breath or get a drink of water, your talking point is too long. And that's about the time I will take a little sip of this because my talking points are too long. Okay. Use language your audience understands. Don't use jargon. Don't use acronyms. Just nice, simple, declarative statement with simple messaging. Okay. Here are a couple of tips. Ensure your crisis comms plan fits seamlessly with the school's response plan. I think I've said that already. Provide media training ahead of time to identified organizational spokespeople. Do it at the very least once a year. If you can do it twice a year, even better. In the heat of a crisis, the communication professional must work in unison with the marketing and fundraising professionals. When it comes down to it in the middle of a crisis, no more titles, we're all communicators. Stay calm, breathe, eat, stand up, stretch. This gets real emotional and real stressful really quick. You snap at each other and you don't mean to. Step away, get a drink of water. Take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of the organization or the people that you're responsible for. That's a must. Next one, please. The bottom line. So these next two slides this is a real rough putting your crisis communication outline together. Conduct your audit. Write down every last possible crisis that can happen. Natural disasters, human-caused disasters. Compile your team roster. Here we go. Team roster. Whether it's your president, your chancellor, folks from legal, campus safety and police, your deans, your finance folks, your government relations folks, program leads, student affairs, all of those are possible people that you can use on a team or that you could use as subject matter experts as spokespeople. Get them together, talk to them. Be part of your overall school response plan and make sure that you're exercising that communication, crisis communication strategy as well. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think it's on my next slide. Team assignments, that's important. Look, you're going to have people on site. We're going to be on site sending you back information. You're going to have photographers, videographers. You're going to have people back in the office doing social media work. You're going to have people creating content. Make sure you have somebody who is editing. You have to have somebody who is a liaison to the leadership team. Who's handling all the media inquiries. All that's part of what needs to take place when it comes to team assignments. You let your leadership team know that they may be part of the media effort that's taking place. Also let your faculty and staff know that. Communication tools. We talked about that already. Holding statements, news releases, photos, videos. Tracking tool. How are you tracking the media requests that are coming in, the media hits? Up-to-date media roster. Like I told you guys, you can tell how old I am. I had a 3-ring binder, had my up-to-date media roster in it. And finally, practice, practice, practice. It may never happen. I hope a crisis never shadows your campus. But practice just in case. Hold a tabletop exercise. Talk to your risk folks. Partner with them. Hold media training not only for the leadership or your possible spokespeople. Hold media training for your comms team. Bring somebody from the outside. Bring a reporter from the community to come in and help with the media training. If you're conducting the media training and they're listening to you, I'm going to listen to the boss over and over and over again, blah, 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 blah. Bring a reporter in from a local station. Not only that, bring a television reporter and bring a print reporter in. They report the news differently. Could be the same news, they report it differently. Right, Ben? Okay. I think I'm kind of down to the end of my time here. Next slide here. Questions? Anybody? Trisha.
Hello. I have
Hi.
a quick question.
Trisha, wait a minute. Where are you from?
San Jack,
Cool.
Sano College, Houston.
Yep.
So we had a recent training with our IT department, and we include them in our communication crisis level. Is that
Awesome.
I didn't see that on your team. Is that something that's not usually
No.
added?
I think the more people that you have that can provide you ideas outside the circle of communication, on your concentric circles out, who can provide you more ideas and give you a view of something that's going on that you haven't thought of, the better.
Okay.
You know? And on top of that, during a crisis, you have equipment failure, equipment back, stuff that just all of a sudden breaks. Those are the guys that are going to back you up really fast and get your new stuff out there, even if it's, they're going to growl at you, but they'll help you out. They understand it's the middle of the crisis. I think that's a great idea.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? I fall to pieces.
Well, I'll ask another question.
Okay. Trisha.
I actually sat in on a crisis communication through Meltwater. I don't know if anybody uses Meltwater for monitoring social media, but they had a great plan. I can't remember the situation. I can't remember if it was a hurricane or a shooting or something that happened. And so they actually put together a packet, and they did suggest, like what you were saying, to have the templates ready, because as you know, that when a situation happens, everyone kind of panics, and it's kind of like learning how to do CPR for first aid. You have to have that training in the back of your subconscious mind, so then you don't panic, and you know what to do. So is that something that creating these templates in your maybe text system or whatever you're using?
I think if you use Meltwater or you use Ben, what are you guys using?
Cision.
Yeah. Well, whatever those organizations are that can help you create a matrix for your messaging and create templates for your messaging, use it. I have a friend of mine in Washington, D.C. who used AI to create his crisis communication plan. I don't care for the templates that were made, because some of those templates lacked empathy. Okay? But it worked easy for him since he's just a three-man shop. So any way that you can create a plan that has a messaging matrix, that has responsibility outlines for your team, I think is a plus. Because I do think you need to have what you need to do, what your responsibilities are, lined out in your plan, along with the templates to make it work. Maria.
So I will add to this, Trish. You said you had your IT team. So let's say that the crisis is a facility failure of some sort, or the power goes out. You should have the ability to know how to access that offline, because all of a sudden you have no internet, you have no power. How are you going to access those things? Maybe it is a backup on a 3-ring binder, but maybe you can access it on your phone, assuming that the whole system didn't go down, right? But having a different way of doing that. The other thing that I would add, Peter, that we've learned is, most of we're with TSTC. We have 11 campuses across the state, and we don't have a let's say a communications person or a PR person or something like that at every single campus. We try the majority of it, and there are different levels, of things. But we've also, part of our training has been in the past of everybody on those campuses knowing who to reach out to when a situation like this arises. Because at that point it shifts. And if your campuses know that, hey, they need to reach out to Trish or Darren or somebody and know what the domino in command is and who's going to pull the trigger on something, then you don't have that mass confusion that sometimes happens. Because if it's big enough and the reporter's going to go knocking on whatever first door he can get in, whoever he's going to go reach out to may not be you. So I think as long as the rest of your staff knows, hey, wait, hold on, this is what you need to do.
To add to what Maria is saying, make sure you have a backup. Maybe you're not available. Maybe you're off campus. Maybe you're on vacation. Who's next in line? Who's second? Who's third? Make sure those folks are identified. Make sure they know their responsibilities for that. One last little thing. I'm not sure if you are familiar with a military decision-making tool. It's called an OODA loop, O-O-D-A, OODA loop. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. It's a tool that you can use when you need to make decisions during a crisis. You're taking a look at what's going on. Orient yourself to the things that you need to do to accomplish. Decide which way what's priority and what you're going to do first, and then act. And what's so cool about this, and the reason they call it a loop, because it goes right back to the top. You made your decision, you've acted, you go back, you observe, you reorient, you redecide, and you react. Just a tool you might want to use. Guys, it's almost the top of the hour. If there aren't any other questions, let me say thank you to a couple of people. Joseph, thank you very much for inviting me. Darren, you are the cat's meow, man. You were there with all the stuff to make sure all the tech checks and make sure it was going well. Thank you very much. Any last question? Annie Bierman, it's so good to see you.
You too.
Yeah. Anything else?
We do appreciate you taking your time to present for us.
Oh, this was fun. I hope you were able to take away a nugget or two that's helpful to you.
All right.
All right, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.